After the roaring success of his debut album As You Were back in 2017, and its bigger, better, belter of a follow-up, Why Me, Why Not, in 2019, Liam Gallagher is firmly back on the map, and he's won back the hearts of many Oasis fans who've been yearning for something that they could buy into since the Britpop behemoth broke up all the way back in 2009. And after his meteoric rebirth that has seen him play 2 sold-out shows at Nebworth, everybody's favourite Parker Monkey is back with his 3rd solo album, Come On You Know. One that he's promised is his best and most experimental yet, citing that some of the songs on the new album are a bit peculiar. But is the new album really biblical, celestial, humble, majestical, spiritual, and approachable? Well, the album's been out for a few months now, so I've had time to digest it and really explore it. So what's the verdict? Let's find out. So the first taste of the new album that we got was the song Everything's Electric, a well-written, mid-tempo rock and roll tune. Link up here somewhere to the review I did of that song if you want to check it out. In essence, if I was to summarise, the song was just a good song, but it was straight down the middle in terms of structure and sound. Very formulaic and what Liam does best. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I feel that most Liam Gallagher fans got what they expected. Now, that single was then followed up by the songs Come On You Know and Better Days, and in my opinion, they were pretty lacklustre follow-ups, to be honest. The songs just sounded like album tracks in a way to me. They didn't feel like they were good enough to be the 2nd and 3rd singles, and they didn't really wow me or live up to the experimental label that Liam had given to these new songs. And frankly, it made me a little bit worried for this new album. But as we know from Liam's past releases, the singles aren't always the best songs on the album, and quite often the labels just choose the singles anyway. It's not actually Liam. So now that the full album is out, what do I think of it? Well, let's start with some of the more obvious highlights on the album, the song Diamond in the Dark, which is well written and well performed by Liam. The song has a great hook and a really memorable chorus. If you haven't heard it yet, go check it out. But for me, the highlights in terms of experimentation and trying something a little bit new for the average Liam Gallagher listener has got to be Moscow Rules and I'm Free.
But I can see the moon, paralyzed by memories of ruined afternoons.
Some very odd but interesting sounds on Moscow Rules going on in the background there. But with the addition of those new and interesting sounds on that tune, I guess it's new territory in a way for Liam. It's a good song, I wouldn't say it's a great one. The song I'm Free, on the other hand, is probably my favourite tune on the new album. That song has so much aggression built into it, and it hits really, really hard. That tune just sounds like it's made for live, and I hope that Liam puts that into his set list for this tour. And the song structure itself is really interesting. It has several different sections that all transition seamlessly into each other. Just really well put together, and that spoken word section in the chorus there, go back to your prisoners because I'm free, just works really, really well in the song. Now, onto the slower tunes. It's dawned on me that Liam has done some exceptionally good ballads on all 3 of his solo albums. It's become somewhat of a signature for Liam, and the song Too Good for Giving Up is definitely a welcome addition to that collection.
We'll provide a guiding hand, a crack of light. You're too good for giving up.
Great lyrics, great sentiment, and it definitely stands up well next to the songs Chinatown, Once, For What It's Worth. And if you haven't listened to it already, go listen to it straight after this video. Top tune. But I guess where the album falls down for me is the production, but also the quality of the songs, really. The album just doesn't have enough strong material, I think. Take Why Me, Why Not, for example. That album has some absolute bangers and big talking points like Once, One of Us, Now That I Found You, for example, which were all heartfelt, emotional songs with real meaning that were really well put together and really well produced. Just really well thought out, both musically and lyrically. And for me, those songs wouldn't look out of place amongst Oasis's best material. So much so that I reckon if Noel had written those songs, he'd be 100% chuffed with them. In fact, I reckon he's a bit jealous. But Come On You Know just doesn't have that level of song. It's a real shame because I think less songs and better quality songs would have been a better way to go on this album. It's not like he's struggling to fill his set list, is it? With the amount of Oasis songs and solo songs that he's racked up. There are 14 songs on this album, so 2 more than the usual 12, and probably about 5 more than what should have actually made it onto the final album. Now, is it me, or are albums just getting longer? They're not getting any better, but they are getting longer. Do we really need all this unnecessary bloat? Just a thought. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think another area that could have been a bit better on this album is to do with the production. For me, the sound design and overall production just leaves a lot to be desired on this album. It very much reminds me of that BDI album in which they left Liam's vocals dry on purpose. For those non-musicians or for those that aren't familiar with production techniques, essentially on that album they left Liam's vocal without any reverb or delay or any of the traditional effects that you would apply to a vocal to help it sit well in a mix. Effects are 100% needed on a vocal. Even if you can't hear them on the record, you can 100% feel them because it helps the actual vocal sit in the mix. And the result of leaving Liam's vocals really dry on that BDI album was just a vocal take with no real character. A really strange listen, to be honest, because as humans, when we hear sounds, when we hear people speak or sing, we attribute those sounds to a certain space, like in the natural world. Those sounds have context and they're usually in a room or a space that has echoes or reverberations that help us to place where that sound is. So to purposely mix a vocal as dry as possible for me makes little to no sense. You have to try and recreate that natural space that we'd have in the human world in the mix. Take the title track from the new album, Come On You Know. Decent song, decent hook I guess. Everything about the song is pretty decent to be honest, apart from the way that it's been produced and mixed. Liam's vocals sound really dry and dull and quite frankly a bit boring, and there are no obvious doubles or harmonies, real or artificial, and his voice when the instruments drop out in that section where he sings Takes Two Memories is drier than the bloody Saharan desert. The EQ is also not really on point for me. Liam's vocals have this harshness to them that they should have filtered out, but I do at the same time acknowledge that this isn't really Liam's fault at all. It just makes for an uninteresting listen, to be honest, and my ears get fatigued listening to that vocal take every time. Now, contrast this song to the songs Once or One of Us on Why Me Why Not. Liam's vocals in those songs just pop out of the speakers, not necessarily because he's sung them better. I mean, his vocals are pretty exceptional on both those songs, but it's because they've been produced and mixed well. On One of Us, Liam's vocals are doubled and that really helps to give the vocals a really nice width, and the song Once has Liam's vocals drenched in reverb and saturation that really give the vocal energy. And it's kind of disappointing that pretty much the whole album is like that for me. If it was a stylistic choice, I think it was the wrong one. And for me, a lot of that is kind of attributed to the overall lack of modern day production techniques on this album. Each song sounds pretty sparse for me, and there seems to be a lack of ear candy or any kind of textures or pads that really fill out each of the songs. I kind of feel like if this album was released 10 years before Why Me Why Not, it wouldn't sound out of place. In fact, it might make more sense sonically, because Why Me Why Not was just littered with ear candy and modern day transition techniques like vocal throws and reverse synth intros and things like that. But for some reason, very little of that appears on this new album. Again, Liam has done a great job, so nothing on him. But in 2022, it's hard for me to see how you can get away with such a bog standard album in terms of production. Unless a record sounds like a modern day record, the hard truth is it's just not going to stand up against what else is on the radio. I don't know, it's definitely a more raw sound than what they had on Why Me Why Not, and maybe it's just what they were going for. But for me personally, I kind of like the more produced stuff. So I guess in conclusion, I feel a little bit underwhelmed by Come On You Know. I mean, the album has good songs on it, but it's just a little bloated. There are definitely a few skippers, put it that way. But that aside, the biggest pitfall for me is that the album just has a really tired sound. Why Me Why Not definitely stumbled upon something special production-wise, I thought. It kind of took the classic rock and roll formula and reinvented it using modern day production techniques and made it sound so interesting and fresh compared to anything else in Oasis' back catalogue. And for me, on that album, Why Me Why Not, there was a distinct difference in sound between that album and Oasis' back catalogue. There was definitely a progression in sound there. But with Come On You Know, the album just sounds a little bit stale for me. Is that Liam's fault? I don't think so. I guess these things are up for debate, and I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, what is for certain is that Liam is back at the top. And whilst his new album does have some absolute bangers on it, if you look at his full catalogue in its entirety of a solo work, there are a vast number of top tunes that he can choose from to rotate at his live shows. And I think if you get a chance to see Liam live, you definitely should. Now is a great time. Why? Well, I think it's because his set list is going to be pretty much perfect. There's a really nice balance now with top Oasis tunes and really strong solo material, and both sets of tunes are really strong. And I'm kind of intrigued to know what you guys made of Come On You Know. Did you agree with my opinion? Did you disagree? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know if it is as biblical, celestial, approachable, humble and spiritual as you hoped. And don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and I will see you in the next one. Is it Come On You Know? Or maybe it's like, come on, you know. Or it's like, come on, you know. No, maybe it's like, come on, you know. Come on, you know.